Welcome to The Work of Warriors, a podcast dedicated to bringing mental wellness to the entertainment industry. I'm your host, Kim Rapach. This podcast is dedicated to the artists we've lost to mental health, addiction, and suicide, and to those who are still suffering in silence.
Wake up, fall back to sleep. I don't like what I'm dreaming. I'm fine, I'm not, no way. Just need a little time for healing. I've tried to run, I've tried to hide, I've hurt myself, keeping it inside too many times. I guess you gotta crash and learn, keep walking till you're past the burn. I just gotta warn you, every shortcut through the hurt doesn't work. You gotta get lost to get found. You gotta find the ups and the downs. 'Cause baby, this is where you find the blessing in the curse. Crash and learn.
That beautiful song was written and performed by indie pop artist Lucy Cloud. Unsure at first if Nashville-based Belmont University was something she even wanted to pursue. But when she found herself in a songwriting room alongside Seth Mosley from King and Country and Justin Morgan from Runaway June, the song Crash and Learn was born. This song has been impactful in my life and I resonate with it so strongly. I'm so excited to share with you today's guest, Lucy Cloud. Hi, Lucy. Welcome to The Work of Warriors.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to meet you and talk about this more.
I'm so happy that you're here. So are you still in Nashville?
Yes, I am. I just graduated from Belmont in May.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. Yeah, I'm in Nashville trying to figure out the whole post-grad thing. It's been a little weird, but I don't know. Taking it day by day.
Yeah. So if you just graduated, then did you start? So you started in like 2020, 2021?
Yeah, I started like during COVID 2020.
Okay.
So yeah, my freshman year like didn't really feel like a actual college experience. The year was like shortened. We had to go home. Like we went home for Thanksgiving and didn't come back till January. So
Yeah.
it was very strange. But yeah, now I'm here. Somehow.
Yeah. You made it through. Good job. You had a few extra challenges along the way, I'm sure. But I'm so happy that you're here. Were you born in Nashville? Are you from that area originally anyway?
No, I'm actually from LA.
Okay.
So I was born and raised in LA, and then I wanted to do music, and so thought that like Nashville would be the spot. And then once I looked into Belmont, it looked like exactly like what I wanted to do. So yeah.
Probably met some amazing musicians, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely a lot of inspirational people here, and just like even my friends like that I've met through the program are just so incredibly talented.
Yeah. So you're in Nashville still trying to figure out post-grad. So I'll just fully confess, I heard your song Crash and Learn. Absolutely love it.
Thank you.
And it is just so much in alignment with the work that I do in the industry. And I was wondering if you would just tell me a little backstory about how you wrote the song, what it was inspired from,
Yeah.
and maybe even, why you said yes to the Work of Warriors today.
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, I was like so off guard, or I don't know. It was just really cool when you reached out to me because I was like, wait, she wants me on her podcast? Like, I feel like I'm still like figuring things out, but so I thought that was really cool. And I think that the work that you do is really impressive. And I think, especially nowadays, like mental health is so, so important. And so I think it's just really important to talk about it. And that's like why I do music, is to, have a way to express my mental health and, all the emotions that I feel. So specifically with Crash and Learn, it was my freshman year at Belmont, and I had recently gone through friendship breakup with kind of like my friends from high school. And so I was starting college with only a few friends from back home. And so it felt very like isolating, and it was also like during COVID. So it was just kind of a hard time overall. And like every write that I had been about this. I couldn't get like exactly what I wanted to say, because I was kind of writing about like the different stages of grief. Like the person didn't die, but they were part of your life for so long, and so for that to just like switch all of a sudden, it's kind of hard to back to doing what you were doing in your day-to-day life. So wrote the song with Seth Mosley and Justin Morgan, and it was my first co-write in Nashville. I was pretty nervous. I walk
That's a
in.
big co-write.
I
Those are
walk
some big
in.
names.
There's like Grammys on the wall. I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm like, I don't know. Like, am I in the right place? Are you sure you guys want me to be in here? But they were super nice. They're really cool, genuine guys. I loved working with them. And we just kind of like had like our notes app out or something like that. And I was just kind of talking to them about the situation. And I think that's kind of the best way, or at least for me, just because like once you get to know the other person or they get to know you and you just start writing things down as like they're talking, and you don't even realize that like some of the things that you say could be lyrics. And so that was really cool because I was just like talking about like things that this friend had said to me, and how it was just like, well, like there's nothing I can do at this point. I've like apologized a certain amount of times, like, you know, it comes to a point where there's not much you can do. So I was just like, let me just try to write about it. And Seth had this idea. He was like, crash and learn. I was like, that's a really cool idea because you always hear crash and burn, but you never really hear crash and learn. And so we were just kind of like sitting on that for a little bit. And then I feel like the writing process came so like effortlessly. I feel like the more it's like opened up to them, we're able to just get things out. And like a lot of the lyrics are very personal to me. Like, if whenever I like perform Crash and Learn, if you know me, you know that I'm like a very anxious person. And so like my hands shake a lot. So there's this one lyric in the song that's like, even if my hands shaking, like something like that. So sometimes when I perform, I'm like, and even if my hands don't shake, I can, like funny stuff like that. But I don't know, this song, it's like the first time a song where I felt like, okay, this is really cool. This is what I want. This is like the sound that I want. This is the meaning of the song was coming across the way that I wanted. And I was really, really excited about having like, I kind of wanted like a gospel choir. It ended up just being the three of us recording, make that choir happen. And so that was really, really cool. Just kind of standing away from the mic and standing in different parts of the room. And so, yeah, it was truly like such an amazing first writing experience in Nashville to be able to write with such incredible people. And just like for them to just hear me out. I was like 19 at the time, They're like, we don't really know this girl. Yeah, it was really definitely healing to write that song.
Well, it's healing to listen to it as well. You should know that.
Thank you.
So I've got a few decades on you. It even touched me in my life. So thank you for that. And thank you for bringing your gifts into the world. And, you said you were taken aback a bit because, I would want you on the podcast. And I think there are plenty of podcasts where there's well-known, celebrities and famous people and, high profile personalities. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that. But I think we need a space for people who are starting in their career,
Mhm.
people who don't want to be famous.
Mhm.
And my whole intention with this podcast is to debunk this idea that if you're famous and if you're successful, then you'll finally be happy, because that's what a lot of people are chasing. And I want to help artists stick to their art, whatever that means. And there's certainly nothing wrong with wanting to be famous. I just want people to enjoy that and enjoy the whole process, the ups and the downs.
Mhm.
And I think if you only have people on your podcast or on your show who are well known, I think that exacerbates the problem.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
That's the opposite of what I want to communicate. I want
Yeah.
to communicate that every artist matters. Everybody has something they bring into the world, and you don't have to be well known to have worth and value in this world.
Mm-hmm. I really appreciate you saying that because it gets really hard, you know, especially in Nashville, like being an artist where there's so many more artists that are like
Yeah.
a lot more well known, and I just graduated, so I'm just trying to figure this thing out. And like sometimes with the business side of music, they don't care as much about like the artist or the artist development. And so I really appreciate what you said because I think it's really important to show the artist at like any stage of their life, you know? Whether it's just in the beginning or if they just had a song that just took off or like whatever. So I think that's really cool that you do that.
Well, thank you. What I look for when I'm going through social media is not who has a million followers. It's often what they're talking about and what they're singing about, what they're writing about.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously the lyrics to Crash and Learn, like, it was like head turn. Like, wait, what?
Thank
Plus, you sound amazing. There's
you.
that. But also the lyrics, when lyrics stop me in my track, I just go, okay, that I want to talk to that person. And sometimes people respond and sometimes they don't. So thank you for saying yes.
Yes, of course. I was so excited for this. It's like my first
Oh, good.
ever like I don't know, my first thing like this. So I don't know. I was excited.
Awesome. Well, I'm super glad to have you. Um, do you want to say a little bit more about whether it be your own experience, your own adversity, or just why it's important to you? Maybe it's your values, why mental health is so important for us to be talking about. Because on the podcast, I really want to normalize the conversation. And you said something about like music is a way for me to express all the feelings that I have.
Mhm.
And I love that so much because we're still in a time in the world where people think that if they have painful emotions that there's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
And if you're human and you're fully alive in your life, you're going to feel all of the emotions.
Hmm.
And I love that you just normalize that. And I would love for you to say a little more about that.
Yeah, of course. Well, when I was younger, I struggled with anxiety and I've kind of struggled with it like my whole life. Never really knew like what to do about it. And then I started writing and I was like, oh, well, if I just like write about how I feel, it feels like a giant weight has been lifted off my shoulders. And then once I started like getting into songwriting more, the first song I ever wrote was actually about I was in like 7th grade. I think I was 12. And
Wow.
it was this kid that told me that he was depressed and I didn't really know how to deal with it at the time. So I wrote a song about it and I shared it with him and it was just like I want you to be okay and like I didn't really know how to handle the situation, so that's how I handled it because that's how I knew to respond, I guess. And
What was his response?
I don't even I think I think he I think he appreciated it, but he was also just like,
In 7th grade?
yeah, in 7th grade. So like nervous that I would like, tell a teacher or something. So yeah.
Gotcha.
But I've always been the emotional type, the overthinker, all that. But I think it's so important to just talk about that. Like all the like artists that I find inspiration from, they talk about their lives. They talk about their struggles. They talk about obstacles that they've been through. They talk about like religious trauma. I think that's really interesting. They talk about being a woman in this society. Like just a bunch of things that need to be talked about, but are often I wouldn't like maybe like looked down upon. I don't know if that's the right word to say.
Well, maybe topics that are still somewhat taboo in our
Yeah,
society.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
so when I was younger, I kind of, for a while, I didn't feel like I had a voice. And so now I'm, becoming more of who I am. And I want to be that voice for others who feel like they don't have a voice. And I want to help people like find the strength to stand up for themselves. And, because I had a lot of people tell me, like, you have to speak up, you have to do this and that, like when I was younger. So that would just make me retrieve back into my little shell. Um, and then I don't know, like just stuff happened in high school that had to kind of shift my perspective um, about life and just who I am. And I don't know, I just think that like expressing your emotions, I feel like is the only way to move forward, Because if you're just keeping
Absolutely.
it all inside, you're going to be miserable. You're not going to want to talk to other people. You're not going to be like living life to its like fullest potential. So I think, I don't know, I really want to make music for the people that felt like how I used to feel and sometimes still feel, but I don't know, it's a journey, sure.
Yeah, yeah, being human is a journey for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, I appreciate that you're normalizing the entire human experience as opposed, there's eras that we've gone through in our world, and we're still very much in an era where we're trying to run from our pain and we're
Mhm.
trying to numb out, and there's so many convenient ways to do that. And what you're saying as a young artist is the only way to return to yourself, the only way to live your life fully is to go through those emotions and
Mhm.
not try to escape them.
And it's hard. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh yeah, it's so easy to just talk about my emotions. No. It's taken me time.
Yeah.
I've definitely learned a lot. I've definitely had moments where I'm like, I just feel like I'm in a rut and, you know, it's just hard. But if you just keep moving through it, like that's the only way to do it is to just go through it?
Yeah. I love that so much. So, I mean, I'm a coach and I used to be a therapist. And
Yeah.
so I don't have it all, tied in a nice little bow either. And it's more, I think, the process
Hmm.
and the tools. The definition of a warrior for the work of warriors is someone who fights for themselves first so that they can show up for the rest of the world. Whereas we live in a world that, says, take care of everybody else and have a servant heart and, put yourself out there and,
Hmm.
work hard and hustle. And people do all of those things. And then they find themselves miserable.
Yeah.
But when we reverse that and we say, okay, let me start with me.
Hmm.
What do I need? Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Am I tired?
Hmm.
Let's just start with the basics
Yeah.
and then figure out what I need. And like you said, go through it. And when life throws us those curveballs, and we all have them, right? To be on this, you know, on this earth, you're going to go through adversity, and you're going to go through the ups and you're going to go through the downs, but going through it, like you said, is the only way.
Hmm.
And so for me, I know in my past I've shared that I've had a lot of experience with just darkness and depression
Yeah.
and trauma, and it is that everyday showing up, and not necessarily like discipline, but like a commitment, keeping a promise to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what works for me, but I would ask you, how do you go through it? Like, are there daily non-negotiables that you kind of come out of the gate with? Or are there things that you do when you hit those darker days? Can you
Hmm.
share some of that?
Yeah, I think honestly, like I'm still working through it, but sometimes, okay, often when I write, I don't mean to be a perfectionist, but I'm like, if it doesn't sound a certain way, I have to delete the whole thing or whatever. And it's like sometimes you just need to sit at your desk, write whatever you're feeling, don't judge it, just get it out, word vomit before you like actually write something good? So sometimes I just have to like force myself to sit down and write. Also, I don't want writing to become like a burden, like something I have to do. So I also have a lot of other outlets, like creative outlets that I like to do. I'm really into like drawing and painting. My roommate and I have gotten into like making little magnets like with clay, just like little stuff like that that like keeps the creative juices flowing, even if it's not like directly writing a song. I also really love collaging. I would love to incorporate some of my collaging artwork for my music. I think that would be really cool. Yeah, I just kind of like take a deep breath, put everything in perspective, and then it's like, okay, I have a bunch of different outlets of creative outlets that I know can help me feel better. So I'll just do those. I'll just listen to music. Sometimes I'll have like a comfort show on or something. And then I'm a really big like walker. I love to walk. I love to be outside. Unfortunately, it's been like 100 degrees in Nashville recently, so I haven't been doing as much walking as I'd like. But even just like getting outside and just walking around your like neighborhood or wherever you live just can like help you feel so much better. I don't know, like I'll be home and I'm like, "Ugh, I don't know what I'm doing with my life." Like it'll just be one of those days. I'm like, girl, like just go outside, listen to some music, walk around, and then I'm like, oh, I feel better. And then sometimes, sometimes I'll journal. I like to journal more. I don't journal every day, but I should. I think it would be cool to like look back on because I have a lot of journals, from throughout my life that I've looked back on, and it's like, wow, I was in that stage and I was feeling this like that way, and now I'm feeling so much better. Or just like, I don't know. So it's kind of cool to like reflect. I feel like this year I've probably done like the most reflecting on my life than I ever have before, just because it was like my last year of school ever. And so I was like, well, after this, I'm just gonna have to figure it out. And so I don't know. Yeah, I think finding things like healthy habits and um, like creative outlets can be very, very helpful when you're feeling just when it's just not a good day for you.
You've named some really powerful mental health tools, from breath work to creativity. I always tell my clients, have things to do that are creative that have nothing to do with giving them away to anybody else. They have
Mhm.
nothing to do with your craft, with your music. And then nature is magical. And so, those are, I mean, three top mental health tools that I think we should all put in our pocket. What are your I'm thinking of the idea of a warrior, someone who chooses to take care of themselves, chooses to fight for themselves. Usually they've already been in some kind of dark season
Mhm.
and they don't want to go back, right? And I'm wondering for you, what is it about you or your values that make it possible to fight for yourself? Because some people don't even have that, right? They don't know that they're worth
Mhm.
fighting for. And so, how did you learn that?
Let's see. I mean, I'm very lucky and grateful to have like such a good support system. Like my parents, my friends, my boyfriend, they've like always been there for me. So I think that's something that's been like, I don't take advantage of that for 1 second because I know there's a lot of people who don't have that. And I feel like I definitely people around me to either like keep me accountable or just, help me out on those days that I just don't believe in myself. Also, my dad is a psychologist and therapist, and so I think I learned a lot from him just like growing up. I've kind of used in my day-to-day life. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you said, I wanted to say thank you because you said, on days I don't believe in myself. And I think that's so important for us, again, to normalize
Hmm.
that we all have those days.
Yeah.
And it's not the end, right? It's not the end of the story. It's not even necessarily the end of the day. But we all have those days where we doubt ourselves. We're questioning, why did I decide to do this again?
Hmm.
And I don't know about you, but I mean, I've struggled with anxiety too. And, I just laugh because I think if we're honest, there's days where we're like, I'm gonna, I'm gonna chase this big dream. I'm gonna do this, and or even the podcast, right? I was like, I want a podcast. It's gonna be amazing. We're gonna talk to artists, and I had this
Yeah.
big plan. And the first interview, I was like shaking in my shoes, and I was like all red and so anxious. And then you question yourself, like, why did I agree to do this? Why don't I just go work at Home Depot or something?
Yeah.
Why am I putting myself out here like this? And I just so appreciate that you said on the days I don't believe in myself, like that's just normal. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the way it is. And I think it's really important to normalize that because I feel like it's hard. I don't want to say like it's hard being a songwriter because obviously there's so many other jobs, well-respected jobs that are very hard. But I just mean the fact that like I'm just like my songs are just me. It's like the most vulnerable version of myself is what I'm giving to the listener. It's yeah, it can be like overwhelming because it's like how much of my life do I want to share or how how do I want to like word this like certain experience that happened. I think I'm kind of still figuring that out a little bit. There's definitely topics that I want to write about, but I haven't written about them in song form yet. I also like to write poetry and like short stories, and so I think that can be really helpful to just free write. And then if I'm like looking for inspiration when I'm like songwriting, I can like look back on those. Yeah, I mean, not like it's hard. And the songwriting program, they told us this. They were like, the music industry is rough. Like, not every day is going to be sunshines and rainbows. You're going to have your hard days. And so I think to know that that's the reality, you just have to accept that. And I think it would be worse if I was just expecting every single day to be perfect. And, you know, because then I wouldn't know how to face like the hard days. And sometimes the hard days, even though they're like super rough to handle and you feel like you're just like melting into a hole, that is what drives the inspiration. That's what drives songs like Crash and Learn, for example, because you can be so down, feeling all this type of way. And then once you start talking about it a little, expressing it, you're like, wait, I can make this into a song that could potentially help other people. I thought that I was just like alone in this experience, like feeling this by myself. But that's like one of my favorite parts about music is you can you can be able to like relate your experiences with other people, even if it's not the exact same experience. Music can be interpreted every way you want it to be. And so I think that's really special and really important. Yeah, sorry, I feel like I just keep going on tangents and getting like
I love
lost.
listening to you. It's making perfect sense to me.
Okay, that's good.
The songwriting process, when you said, what did you say? Something like the most real version of myself is what I'm giving to the listener.
Hmm.
And, the word vulnerable came to mind for me. Like it's so vulnerable.
It really is.
And it's so much of what you're describing as a songwriter and as a musician, I think applies to the human condition, right? You
Mm-hmm.
were talking about there's still things I want to write about. There's parts I want to share, but I'm not sure. And I'm like, me too. Me too. I'm going to be 53 this week. And I'm like, yeah, me too. I don't know. I still don't know. And that's okay. Because I just think when we do our work, when we're honest about our feelings, when we have a strong community, whether it's, through community mentorship or
Hmm.
therapy or coaching, whatever it may be, when we're doing that vulnerable work on our emotions and our stories, like you said, that's where going through the painful pieces, that's where the inspiration comes from. And that's where the healing comes from. And then that's how we turn it back around and give it away in a healthy way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's so beautiful and magical.
Yeah. And unfortunately and sadly, there are plenty of artists who give their gifts away but sacrifice themselves
Mhm.
first.
Mhm.
And it's so tragic because in one sense or another, we end up losing them. And so again, that's why I think these conversations are so important, to hear how an artist processes not only how to write a song and how to bring it into the world, but how to stay upright in a world that's hard,
Yeah.
and in, messy relationships and
Mhm.
pandemics and just, the whole human condition.
Yeah.
So it's very inspirational to hear that. And again, I think your song, and I know you have lots of beautiful songs, by the way. That's not the only one, but it is admittedly my favorite.
Yeah, no. Thank you.
The descriptor of what it's like to be human, that you have to go through that in order to come out on the other side stronger.
Mhm.
It's not
Yeah,
about avoiding the crash, right? It's, how do I
exactly.
go through this
It's
and
gonna
come out with more strength and resiliency?
yeah. I think something that my dad taught me when I was younger that I definitely like have used throughout my life, because I used to like get anxiety attacks and not know what it was because I was so young. And then once I kind of like got a little older, my dad started to explain it to me from, the like psychologist point of view, like what it actually like what's actually happening and all that. I was like, this is crazy, but like how do I deal with it? And he was like, okay, what you have to do when you feel the anxiety, you just have to let it, you just have to feel it. You just have to let it, but don't let it consume you, but just feel it and then just go through it, you know? And I get really anxious about, I don't know, just random things, meeting new people or being a right with someone or just whatever, because it forces me to be uncomfortable. And I already kind of feel like I'm in kind of an uncomfortable stage in my life because, like I said, I'm post grad, so I'm figuring that out. So I think it's kind of been, I've been trying to just put myself out there more because I can't let my anxiety control me, or else, like, then what am I doing? Then, like, what is the point of all the songs that I've written and, like, all the progress that I've made in my life if I'm just gonna let anxiety control me? Day by day thing, but it's also like you have to push through it, you have to persevere. Like, the feeling of anxiety, it'll be there. Depends on like your reaction. Are you gonna let it consume you? Are you just gonna stay in your room all day? Or are you gonna face the anxiety and be like, okay, yes, I'm feeling anxious, whatever, I'm gonna still go grab coffee with a friend, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's been something that I've been trying to work on more. Um, but
So can I ask, were you anxious coming on the call today?
a little bit, yes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But I think that's
Yeah,
normal,
I
right?
do too. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I confuse anxiety with excitement. Sometimes I really
Mm,
have to stop and dial in to myself and go, wait, are you anxious or are you just really excited?
yeah,
Sometimes they feel very similar.
that's very true.
Yeah. You think about things that we get the most anxious about, at least for me, are things that I've asked for and things that I've worked for and things that I've prayed for.
Yeah.
And then I step in, I'm like, why did I want this? Anytime, I'm
Yes.
speaking publicly or whatever, I'm so excited until like about 2 days before. And then I'm like, why do I keep doing this to myself?
I know exactly what you mean. Or it's like I finally get a band together. We're gonna practice my songs, and then it's like, wait, are my songs even good? Do you guys think I'm actually good? Am I just like, imposter syndrome is
Yep.
definitely a big one that I
Yeah.
have to deal with.
Yeah. Well, Lucy, I would ask you, if someone were listening to this and maybe having a hard time, maybe experiencing a lot of anxiety or, those darker emotions, or
Mhm.
even maybe even feeling like giving up, whether it be on the industry or themselves, and they were listening to this, what would you say?
I would say it's hard. I've been there, but there is another side. You can get through it. There are a lot of different ways of coping. And I think whether you're a creative or not, I think it's important to express those emotions. And even if you don't feel like you can talk about it with somebody, just write it down. Just at least get it out of your system. Because the more, like, when you're just like going through that cycle of just dark thoughts and depression, it's really just like an endless cycle. But I feel like once you kind of get it off your chest a little bit, whether that's talking to someone, whether that's writing it down, whether that's literally talking to yourself in your own room, like talking to your cat, talking to your dog, whatever it is, it can be really, really helpful and eye-opening to just say everything out loud. I don't know, I said before, I'm an introvert and I'm often an observer of other people. And so for like most of my life, I kept a lot of what I was thinking like inside. But then once I started letting it out is when I started to feel better. And I'll go through this all the time. Like, I'm in a rut. I don't know what to write about. I just feel like bad, whatever. And then once I start writing it, it feels like a giant weight had been lifted off my shoulder. So, yeah, I would say even when it doesn't seem like there's hope, there always is. You just really have to push forward, and it's going to be hard. And it's really good to have people around you if you can. Um, and if you can't, music, always just come back and listen to Crash and Learn. Just
There you go.
just because yeah, I mean I'm not trying to like promote myself, but it just that song
Okay, if you
specifically
do. I'm promoting it.
has like it's really cool. It's helped a lot of people. I've gotten like a lot of DMs and people are like, people from all different ages and all different parts of their life, I think can relate to it. And I think that's really, really, really special. And it's something that I want to continue to do.
And you're probably familiar with, this idea of like external validation.
Mm,
And it's
which,
hard as a creative to not want it, right? Or to
mhm,
not depend on it. But what I hear you say is you have that internal validation. And that's, I think that's evidence in not like the popularity of your music, but in those DMs that say, hey, that's why I reached out to you. This song is powerful. This
yeah,
song relates to what I think collectively all of us
mhm,
experience on a regular basis, at least at some point in our lives, but probably on a regular basis.
yeah,
And, to use that as validation to know you're doing what you were put here to do, and that, just to remind you to keep going.
it's a journey for sure. And I'm only 22, so I feel like I'm just beginning the journey. But sometimes I feel like, oh my God, I've lived a life, But you just
Yep. And then
keep
you
moving
wake up
forward.
and, you're 50 and you're like, I've had a life.
Yeah.
And then guess what? You just keep going,
Mhm.
trying to make an impact and keep
Yeah.
using your gifts and keep bringing them into the world. So,
Yeah. Because the best part is hearing back from other people, like hearing that I've actually helped another person with a song that I like made in my room. And for someone to
yeah.
reach out and be like, hey, like this song really resonated with like me and my situation, and I just want to thank you. And I'm like, oh, that's when it like hits, and it's like, okay, that's what motivates me to like keep doing what I want to do.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
good work.
Thank you.
How can people find you if they want to hear your music, if they want to follow you, learn more about your story, or book you? How can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find website is lucycloudmusic.com. And then all of my like ads are at Lucy Cloud Music on Instagram, Twitter, or I guess X is what they call Twitter now, but Facebook, all that. I've been trying to use TikTok more. And I kind of want to start like a new series of just like post grad life and show kind of the reality of it and just like how I'm coping with it every day. Not every day, but like I don't know, I'm thinking of doing something like that. And yeah, it's just at Lucy Cloud Music. I'm gonna be updating my website soon, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, I'm working on some things, and yeah, I'm excited to see what the future holds.
Well, I look forward to watching what's coming for you. I know it'll be
Thank you.
special. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like like this is exactly why I do music, you know? So I'm so happy that I saw your DM and that we could figure this out because it's really special what you do, and I'm glad that I got to be a part of it.
Thank you for being here. I really, really appreciate it. We'll make sure to share all of your information in the show notes. And I look
Yes.
forward to keeping in touch.
Thank you so much for having me. I really had such a great time.
Awesome. It was great to have you, Lucy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wake up, fall back to sleep. I don't like what I'm dreaming. I'm fine, I'm not, no way. Just need a little time for healing. I've tried to run, I've tried to hide, I've hurt myself, keeping it inside too many times. I guess you gotta crash and learn, keep walking till you're past the bar. I just gotta warn you, if you shortcut through the hurt doesn't work. You gotta get lost to get found. You gotta find the ups and the downs. Cause baby, this is where you find the blessing in the curse. Crash and learn. Crash and learn. When tears fall down my face, I catch them in a bottle. Save them for a rainy day, just to know I've got them. You can't break a broken heart, so maybe this is better. And maybe if my hands don't shake, I can hold it together. I guess you gotta crash and learn, keep walking till you're past the burn. I just gotta warn you, if you shortcut through the hurt doesn't work. You gotta get lost to get found. You gotta find the ups and the downs. Cause maybe this is where you found the blessing in the curse. Crash and learn. Oh, oh, oh. No, I won't run. No, I won't hide. I'll stare my demons in the eye. So tonight, I guess you gotta crash and learn, keep walking till you're past the burn. I just gotta warn you, if you shortcut through the hurt doesn't work. You gotta get lost to get found. You gotta find the ups and the downs. Cause maybe this is where you found the blessing in the curse. Crash and learn.